Okay, welcome back. That worked a little bit, but I'm going to do a fast version of what we talked about in slightly more sane terms, maybe. So we're talking about the GA18, most recent executive order by Governor Abbott, TDLR, Shelley Luther and her salon in Dallas, and what everybody else is doing. So what I've got in front of you is a snippet of the document that we put together, and this is a motion to reconsider. There's a TRO currently that Shelley is, it's supposed to tell Shelley to stop operations. Now, TROs are supposed to preserve the status quo. The status quo is Shelley operating. So is this a TRO or is this a mandamus? We'll figure that all out. But the fact is that she's operating. And so there's a TRO that the court issued last week and said, you've got to stop doing that. Actually, a couple of days ago. And so there was also a finding by the court that she needed to show up on Tuesday. Actually, it's going to be just a hearing to determine whether or not she is going to pay a price for continuing to violate the TRO, so the show cause hearing. And because we have coronavirus rules, who knows how that's going to be conducted. I don't think it's going to be in live testimony. But that'll be Tuesday afternoon. So from now until then, she's just going to take care of people. She's going to commit the crime, maybe, if it's a crime, of taking people's money in return for a haircut, which has been legal for most of all of history. And they're going to say, well, she's doing a bad thing because she is violating the law. She's endangering people. Now, we're going to ignore all of the liquor stores. We're going to ignore the washaterias with three generations of people where you've got 100 people in the facility using 50 washers and dryers. Nobody's doing any search that you wouldn't know that anything has changed. We're going to ignore all of the things that are going on in Dallas where the virus is actually being spread. And we're going to find that the salons where you have people that have had at least 1,000 hours of training just to operate, and a lot of them use masks already. We're going to shut them down. We're going to assume that no salon operates safely, and we're going to assume that every liquor store is operating safely and every petri dish daycare is operating safely, and somehow magically 2, 3, and 4-year-olds have learned about social distancing, and I guess they're going to be kept in cages apart from each other, something I know that people are always a big fan of. So that's what the assumptions are, and we're going to assume that this is meaningful, that it's meaningful, that people who would otherwise die are going to be saved. We're going to ignore all these other organizations, and we're going to make these people sacrifice. Now, if you're listening and you think that's a good idea, I want you to prove it to me by giving all of your income, your government cash, your cushy job. If you are getting any income from other people and you want these people to stop working, then I want you to go find some place and give all of your money away, because some of these people are going to be devastated by this. They don't get money from the government. They don't get money for just sitting around. They get money for doing work. They're 1099 contractors. There's no way for them to get any of the money that so many other people are getting. And so if you're serious and you want these people to take it on the chin for you, I want you to give all of your money to them. But let's get back to the law. I'll rant mode off. Okay, these are two. Let's switch back over to the GA18.
Sure.
So GA, okay, whenever the Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott, GA, he does an executive order. He does an executive order, and it's numbered, right? And so these are numbered executive orders. In the beginning, his first big order like this was GA14. There's been another one he did at GA16, and the most recent one is GA18. GA18 is the reopen Texas. We're starting to do some things to reopen. So all of these three last orders have these two paragraphs in them. And if you don't catch them here, well, actually, two paragraphs I'm talking about here. And the first one is right here. People shall avoid visiting bars, gyms, etc., down to cosmetology salons, okay? That's what it says. People shall avoid these. It uses the language shall avoid. Where is it? Shall avoid right there. Now, that's funny, and people will say, well, that means you don't do it. Is that what it means? Well, then why did the governor, he's a governor, right? And he is an attorney, and he knows how to speak English. He knows how to instruct people. He says, over here, people shall not visit nursing homes. Does that mean we're closing nursing homes? No, it doesn't. What does it mean? People shall not visit nursing homes. That's what it says. Okay, that's what it says. So people shall not visit nursing homes. But up here, shall avoid. Well, we know what you mean. Is that right? We know what you mean. Well, I do know what I mean. Does this mean that a salon has to close? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. What it says is people shall not visit. People shall not visit. And so, well, we know what you really meant. No, we don't know what you really meant, because that's the words he put down. And I'll use this opportunity. As everybody knows, and as I mentioned every time I get an opportunity to, I bought dinner for Justice Scalia some years ago, back when I was in law school. And Justice Scalia, I took my bookmark out, so if I can find it really fast. Page 25, I think it was. Justice Scalia talks about how this is. And the point is that we don't read things into the law. We read the law and we apply it. If we don't like it, then we fix it. But I want to read this paragraph, and this again is on page 25 of Justice Scalia's book, A Matter of Interpretation. I'm going to skim through it. Of the criticisms leveled against textualism, that is the idea that we just enforce what's there, is that it's formalistic. Okay, so, and here he gives two examples. For example, and I'm just going to use one to make the point. Before a wish becomes a binding law, it must be embodied in a bill that passes both houses and is signed by the president. A murderer has been caught with blood on his hands, bending over the body of his victim. A neighbor with a video camera has filmed the crime, and the murderer has confessed in writing on a videotape. We nonetheless insist that before the state can punish this miscreant, it must conduct a full-dress criminal trial that results in a verdict of guilty. Is this not formalism? Long live formalism. It is what makes a government of laws and not of men. So the problem is this. The governor was, the legislature failed by passing a law that gave a lot of power to the governor. Now, as we know, we could go back to the, let's go back to my banner page. We copy parts of the Constitution. I think it's on my banner page. But the idea is legislature passes laws, governor enforces them. And no matter what happens, you're going to have the legislature pass laws. The governor does not suspend laws. The governor does not make laws. His every utterance is not a law. Now, the governor can be given power to implement a policy, and that's what we do with some of our administrative agencies. But the problem with this particular setup is that Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code says in an emergency, the governor can do a lot of things, and his executive orders have the force of law. That's arguably against the Constitution. It's a law, a state law, which is much, much less than important than the Constitution. So that the governor can make law under the state law, which is unconstitutional. But let's say he only passed executive orders that really didn't break the law, that they're within his normal powers. Well, then it wouldn't be a problem. Or let's say the state county judges and mayors issued personal public safety announcements that said, look, masks are a really good idea, and guys, if you don't do it, people are going to die. There's nothing illegal about that. That's a good idea. That's what you expect out of your leaders. And it's responsible to do that kind of thing. But whenever you have a dubious law that goes and gives power to the governor, to the county judges, and the sheriffs, and the mayors, it doesn't give power to the sheriffs, but the sheriffs didn't say, well, I'm the arm of the law, and I interpret whatever the county judge says, then you have a problem. So, but let's look at what these laws say. We didn't say it. We started to. So executive powers. The governor, if there's a problem with threat disease, down here at the bottom of this, now this is copied from the Constitution. Down here at the bottom, it says that in case of threat disease, that's the very last line of the banner picture there. prevalence of disease threat is the actual clause. That's the phrasing. The governor, he goes out and he has a special session, and they pass what? Laws. They pass laws. And then we know what's going on. And the reason why this is important, folks, is because when you pass laws, you spend a lot of time wordsmithing and making sure they don't say what they don't say, so that some sheriff yahoo in the middle of hinterland decides, well, I'm the law, and starts shutting people down, which is what's happening all over the state. So, and of course, that's what's led our governor in GA 18 and other of these is to say, from suspending the law, which he really can't do, but if you accept this law, he can. He's suspending the laws that gives those county judges and mayors power. So let's go back to the GA 18.
Yeah. Second.
There we go. All right. So shall avoid. You were told when you were a young person, your parents said you should avoid debt. Should avoid debt. Does that mean you never get debt? No. Would you be breaking what your parents told you today? Would you be breaking the fifth commandment, dishonoring your parents, if you took on debt? Well, no, you wouldn't. You avoid debt, but at appropriate times you do take on debt. You just avoid it. Some people avoid going to the dentist, except when they feel like they've got to have their cavities checked. Instead of going 4 times a year to get their teeth cleaned, they just go once a year. They avoid going to the dentist. If I go to see my stylist once a month, hey Stephanie, my stylist, and I see her once a month, and then I go to twice a month, I'm avoiding going to the stylist because there's a virus, and that's what all of this says. This is avoid interaction, close interaction with people. That's what this is about, and so I'm obeying this executive order, irrespective of whether it's something that I have to obey. I'm following its dictates by avoiding going to get my hair cut. And that is sufficient. And I want you to understand that this, you can just read it. Does it say salons must close? No, it doesn't. It says people shall not go. Should avoid. So if somebody's not avoiding, who's breaking the executive order? It's the people that are doing that are visiting. The salon is not doing anything at all wrong. Now, as we talked about earlier, people will say, well, it's what the governor meant. He knows what he meant. And TDLR has sent me a nasty letter. Did we get that? Did we get that nasty letter up? We have to get the nasty letter. Go find the Mike Lane position. No, Mike Lane. Go find it over here or something. Here, Mike Lane sent out a letter in response. TDLR sent out a letter that says, we've looked at this and we know that it means shall close. And then they got Ken Paxton's office, the Attorney General, and some podunk deputy guy sent out this letter, which I'm sure Paxton did not approve, or was a little dubious about, or Paxton would have signed it himself. But he didn't do that. There's a letter that came out from Paxton's office that says, we interpret this to mean that they should be closed. And it is horrible legal conclusion, legal reasoning. They go from shall avoid, and we interpret it to mean it should close, as though that's binding. Let me help you with something. The Attorney General's opinion is what we call persuasive. It's not binding. It's not law either. It's simply the way that the it's the way the state government's going to look at this. It's binding on them. It's not binding on us. It's not binding on any court. It is persuasive. When the Attorney General says something, or his office says something, it means something. So I don't want to say it's meaningless, but it's not law. And so what's going to be required is a lawsuit. We have filed an application for writ of mandamus in the Supreme Court to say that this has gone too far. And we're not attacking the governor, but we are saying that we are attacking a number of the county judges, and we are attacking a number of mayors. You got Scott Kane, Cleburne mayor. We'll do a shout out to him. Good going there, Scott. In Cleburne, they're giving citations. I have a copy from my client, a citation given to him because he and his wife walked into Walmart together. They're walking into Walmart together. Got a citation. $50 to $2,000, 180 days in jail. So we're going to have to fight that. Really, that actually happened. People are talking about a lot of things. Oh, this person got stopped and their papers were checked. And when we look at that, we haven't seen one of those actually yet. But I have an actual citation in the city of Cleburne because he has decided that if you go into, if you travel to take care of an essential, you can only travel to take care of essential things. And when you go, only one person from the community or from the household can go do this. And if more than one person goes to do this, they can be cited, and it's actually happened. So I find that to be horrible, and I think it's far beyond. And that's one of the reasons why GA18 and GA16 both had a caveat in them that said that he was suspending the law 418.1015 to the extent that the actions of the mayors and county judges were conflicting or more restrictive than what he's doing. So you can't do things that are more restrictive than what the governor said. And that is binding, because if it's based on the already dubious law. So if you're going to say that this law is valid, then you're saying that the governor can suspend laws, and so he can do that. I would say that neither one of them is binding, because the governor can't make law in the first place, but it's another issue. So here's our...
I can't find your mic thing, but this is...
It's right...
You can message it on Facebook.
I can message it on Facebook to me.
Well, if you send it to me, I'll be able to put it on the screen.
Maybe I can just put it right here, and I can drop it in the...
Oh, yeah.
Drop it in here?
Go for it.
See what happens. I don't think I can do that. But anyway.
Is it in the file?
It's in the file right there.
Pull it up.
It's in this long file right there.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Mike Lang has come out and said that we looked at this, and we find that there's no state law that says salons have to close. And so now you have another authority. Now, is Mike Lang's pronouncements law? No, they are not. But they are another reasonable person that has said that this is not the right thing. Montgomery County judges, I want to give a shout out to them. Montgomery County, you can look at their Facebook page, and the county judge there has come out and said that this is not right. There it is. Okay, so see if you can make me smaller.
Right
or
there, got you. I do it eventually. It'll catch up.
Okay, so here you go. And I'm sorry for the this. I just pulled this off the web. So pull that down a little bit so we can.
Wait, scroll in.
There we go. So as we discussed, we are forwarding complaints we get regarding shops open in violation of order and local law enforcement. And so at this time, our laws and rules do not speak to enforcement solely based on the violation of the governor's orders. So that's the problem. Whenever some sheriff says, well, I'm enforcing the executive order of the governor, he is without power. That governor, that sheriff is just out there being a yahoo, being the worst archetype of a hinterland sheriff, and you should inform them that they're doing the wrong thing. Now, this is not legal advice, right? Don't tell the sheriff, well, Warren said I can. Warren is just a nobody like everybody else. I'm just telling you my opinion, and I'm giving you, as opposed to conclusory languages, I'm trying to show you why it's wrong. Let me get back to my agenda. We're skipping through the things. Let's go back to the economy versus people, the Houston current
Website or PDF?
Website. Well, let's talk about let's talk about what the governor says and what it means, why you find that. The governor came out. If you want to know why we don't just take utterances or executive orders and say, well, he meant this, because what the governor says is often not the law. And so a couple weeks ago, whenever the mixed drinks became where you could pick them up, where you could pick up booze, and you can have booze delivered. When the governor first came out on the website, and the press release is still there, if you can find that press release, there's a press release that the governor had and said, hey, look, we're going to deliver it. And it looks, when you just read it, it looks as though we're going to be able to deliver mixed drinks. Now, TAB, this is March 18th. March 18th press release by the governor.
Or tweet.
Or tweet. So he sends this out. I think that's March 18th. And so the TABC came out the next day and clarifies, no, we didn't mean mixed drinks. You can only pick up mixed drinks if they're in the manufacturer's group. So what the governor said on his website is what we call hearsay. It's hearsay. It's not admissible. It's not law. It's just what he said. And so if you want to pull up the Fox 4, you can find that and make that work this time.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not gonna happen.
No, you can try it and see.
Well,
All right. Well, there's a.
we can show it to them.
We can show it to you,
Can I
and
put
we'll
captions?
see if that works. Here,
No
can you put captions on? That'll work.
It won't let me.
Oh, that's too bad. All right, so this is the show them the link so they can get that.
That link's right here.
Or just put the link in the stream,
You got
Facebook stream. Okay, there you go. If you go to this, you'll find this Fox 4 reporter asked the governor, "What do you do about this salon owner?" And he's talking about Shelley, and it's pretty clearly talking about Shelley. And the governor says, "Well, we're working with them." He does not say put them in jail. He just doesn't say that. And so if we're going to listen to what the governor says in a random environment or even on a webpage, during an interview, the governor didn't say put her in jail. He says we're concerned about people getting too close. But he never says put her in jail. He just said, but he says we're working with her. Now, do you think that the governor's working with somebody he thinks she put in jail as a criminal? I wouldn't think so. But he's uncomfortable saying, I'll tell you, what's the problem here is he's uncomfortable saying, everybody go back to work and be careful. Because some of you guys are going to be yahoos, and you're going to just resume business as usual. And that's what these guys are afraid of. They're afraid of you having your own control of yourself that's going to cause a problem. Now, is that a real problem? It turns out it's not. Let's go to the COVID tracking site. No, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, so this is a site. This is the COVID. This is an official site by the medical people, and it's talking about deaths. Go down to where it talks about the hospital resource use. All right, so all beds available. We have 28,634 beds available in the state of Texas, and right now we're using 1,200 of them. We have 2,000 ICU beds available. We're using about 300 of them. We are. If you look at this purple line way up here at the top, that's the resources we have, and this is where we are right now. We're down here. All beds needed. That's in all beds where we're being used. So we are way below. We're not gonna get over. We're not simply going to get to the point where we are going to outrace what we have as available. So to the extent that somebody has said, we got to flatten the curve, we have flattened the curve. The goalposts have been moved from flattening the curve to making sure nobody gets it. And that's unrealistic, folks, because if we're going to do that, that means we're going to wait till a vaccine comes out. And a lot of these vaccines don't work all that great either. And so you're talking about a year of this. This was always about flattening the curve to make sure that people that get it, because everybody's going to be exposed to it at some point, make sure that medical facilities can handle it. Remember, we used to have this video that said, with mitigation, without mitigation, people die because there's no medical resources. That's not an issue here in Texas. It's not even an issue in Houston or Dallas. It's not. Now, that doesn't mean that they're busy, that no hospital is busy in Dallas or Houston. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we are not going to outstrip our resources. The chances of that are near zero. We should be able to say, isolate the vulnerable and take care of reasonable precautions, because we're not going to be able to sit in this don't do things mode forever. And the governor knows that, and that's why we have this thing of putting us all back to work. But the idea that all of these people who are salons and gyms, they're just supposed to take the loss so that we can do this much, while you're allowing all of the petri dish daycares to do whatever they want. It means these people are sacrificing for no particular good reason. They are not the problem. They're this much compared to the real world that you're letting out over here. And it's not an economy versus people question. It's a matter of what statistics do you care about. If you say the only statistic I care about is the number of cases, because even if we save everybody's lives, even if everybody's asymptomatic, you can just go about your business, you don't feel particularly good, but everybody, number of cases is what some people are talking about. It's not irrelevant, but what really matters is how many people are dying, and are the things that we're doing lowering the number of deaths. If anybody who gets this is going to die, then that'd be very different. That's not the situation. If anybody who gets this and they have medical resources available that they can get to, That's what we're trying to get to. So, because there's another price to be paid. What we're doing is we're saying we're going to trade the lives of the physically fragile for those who are psychologically fragile. 90% of the deaths are for people that are over 55. That doesn't mean that some young people don't die. I've seen that. You don't have to come back and tell me, oh, I know that this person 14, this person who's 40. I understand that. But 90% of the people that are dying are younger than or older than 55. And you can't just ignore that. So we had an excellent piece by Representative Steve Toth on April 10th, and this and we'll put that link in our live stream. And what he talks about has how you have the psychologically fragile. There's a straightforward analysis. This is done back even during people looked at the FDRAs, and people look at every time there's a downturn. Depressions, economic depressions, cause people to commit suicide. They cause crime. There's a real price to be paid by going from full economy to, guess what? Sucks to be you. And so this has a price. It's not small. It's serious. For every 1% in unemployment, you get a certain percentage of extra suicides. And they'll say, well, these people should just be stronger. We should just get them help. Well, why don't we just get the help for the people that are psychologically or that are physically fragile? That's what we've been doing. And let's face facts. You can choose to largely insulate yourself from everybody. If you're vulnerable, you can go to Amazon. You can get your groceries delivered. You don't have to let anybody in your house. You can take charge of your own life and make sure that nobody else is doing damage. Now, I've heard people talk about, well, if you open up and then the employees are required to come back. That's a maybe problem. And if they don't come back, they get fired, and then you're going to have people fighting over unemployment. So this is really forcing people to come back to work. That's a maybe problem, but it's not a real problem. I haven't seen that anywhere. Nobody's saying you have to come back to work that I've seen, or I'm going to fire you. So I think that there's wiggle room in there. People can work this out. Should not assume that there are going to be problems just because there might be problems. We don't assume that everybody's going to get this no matter what, or we would act very differently. In World War II, the Londoners were in a war. They sent their kids to the outskirts and to the countryside, sometimes to live with complete strangers, effectively. So that was a war. This is not a war. It's not a war when you are civilly disobedient by cutting people's hair, and where you comply with the efforts needed by sitting around and eating, and making other people pay the price because they don't have access to the government programs that you have access to. So, Steve, so this was a great piece Steve Toth put together. I encourage you to read that. There was another piece that was done, in case you don't trust this crazy right-winger. This is Nichelle Nichols. This is a Reuters article talking about the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to die due to the global economic turndown. These are going to be real things. You can go on YouTube and watch countless farmers talk about how they're euthanizing cattle that should be used by people to eat. These things have a price, and we haven't even begun to pay it. I expect that my bankruptcy practice is going to explode in 2 or 3 months because this is horrible, and some people are not going to be able to recover even if you turn it all back on tomorrow. There's a price to be paid. I know multiple gyms and people have contacted me that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You get manufacturers that are not doing work because other people are not being paid to send them to work that's not got to be done. I will say that if you're a city and you haven't used all this time to take care of all your streets, then that's malfeasance, and you run out of work. What else do we need to make sure we cover that we covered last time?
We talked more Shelley and licensing, perhaps.
Shelley and licensing.
There is a rebuttal presumption that a license holder in the state of Texas is in compliance with the rules and regulations applicable to their licensed industry until proven otherwise.
Right. That's okay. So I've had this TDLR thing. First of all, most of TDLR is run by people who want TDLR to have people that are working. And so I'm not sure who sent out the TDLR. TDLR is Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. It's not too long, didn't read. And so they license the cosmetologists, and a number of other organizations. And I've got other people that are talking to me that they have medical boards they have to answer to. And they're all scared to death because these people are going to come back and yank their license. Again, not legal. This is not legal advice. This is risk business advice. You have to decide for yourself what's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that people are going to forgive any issues like that. There is no actual regulation that's been put out. There's just interpretations of interpretations of interpretations. And as we showed a few minutes ago, you have other people that are saying no. I will throw in a little bit of Bible just for a minute. In the Old Testament, there was a person who became queen of the Israelites, and the anointed way that was handled was the middle management. Ordinary people that were in middle management, state reps, do your job, and lawyers, do your job, who rose up and revolted and replaced that queen. So if you get a message from, say, a Pastor Jeffries that says that suggests that you aren't a good Christian because you aren't obeying a non-law that's been interpreted by some jackbooted sheriff, you need to let him know that he's a fine pastor. I'm sure he preaches the gospel very well. He's not a lawyer, and he hasn't even read the GA 18 or 16 or 14. He probably needs to keep to his own lane. So I'll just say that about that. So Shelley and the gang and all you salon folks, yes, you have licenses. You are presumed to be complying with laws unless somebody says otherwise. The idea that you are should be jailed for this is crazy. And I've had people say, well, should I let the TDLR guy in? I think that's probably a bad idea not to, just because, and the criminal defense people are probably going, no, don't tell him that. You have to make your own decisions, and I'm not there, and I don't know your particular situation. If I were a stylist in, I won't give a name out, in some small city, I would not do a general announcement, but I might call my regular people, and I would do it quietly. First time you get cited, you're unlikely to go to jail. We're going to probably be able to work with people to get this all worked out. But again, you haven't hired me. That's not advice. I'm just telling you that because I'm a risk taker and I take risks, just like I'm doing this here. You have to make your own decision. If you're not willing to go to jail and you're not willing to pay $2,000 for your right to serve people in a way that they want to be served, then don't do it. That's the legal advice. If you want legal advice, don't do it. So, what else was there?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to point out when the cops came to give warnings to Shelley, they weren't wearing masks, and so now I've seen pictures. Shelley's people don't always perfectly wear masks. They're instructed to, and they occasionally make a mistake somewhere. That's true. This is always a matter of be reasonable, right? And so when I see Pelosi step up to the mat to speak in Congress. Thank you. I'm struggling. It's Friday. It's been a long week. She's not wearing her mask. Oh, she's not wearing her mask. Look, she's at a podium speaking into a microphone. I don't care about the masks. And if Hidalgo the county judge in Harris wants to say, everybody's got to wear a mask, okay, of all the things that they're doing, that's this much of the infringement. You can't work for a living. Yeah, focus on the big thing. The big thing. They're not letting you work. If you want to go up in arms, they're not letting you earn a living. A good friend of mine wrote a book about the most important right you have is to earn a living. It's really about it. So, yeah, we could talk about faith and First Amendment and all those, and I'm all aboard with that too. But if you can't earn a living, you die. So you're not even a dog, not even an animal if you can't earn a living. So I would find this to be a huge violation of the Ninth Amendment, but I'm a Ninth Amendment guy, nobody else is, so that's okay. You got to make your own decisions. I welcome the opportunity to help those of you who are in trouble. Be aware that there are only a few of us, and that's too bad. I would call on all my brothers and sisters in the legal profession to stand up and say, what are you doing, people? Follow the law. Don't follow what somebody meant to say. Governor Abbott is an attorney. He didn't say salons have to close. He said their customers have to avoid going there. That's what he said. He said, you shall not go to a nursing home. He said, you shall not go to a nursing home. That's a command. If you want to pretend that every utterance out of Greg Abbott's mouth is a law, then follow all of them, and remember that Greg Abbott, when he had the opportunity, did not say Shelley Luther goes to jail. He didn't say that. He said he's working with her. So if you want to say she should go to jail for disobeying the rules, I would urge you to actually read. These things are not hard to find. I know I read and I write and I use words for a living. Sometimes that's easier to tell than other times. Yeah. But you can look these things up and you can see what's going on and you can read for yourself and you can see that this is wrong. And I urge you to tell your county sheriff. I know that the sheriffs are getting some pressure to go enforce these things because cities don't want to. I've talked to a lot of cops. I want to give a shout out to the police. I am often critical of police officers. But I have seen more feedback about police officers going, you want me to do what? They all know it's wrong. And you're not seeing a lot of enthusiasm for enforcing this. They've got real crime going on. You think a police officer wants to see the rapist that's sitting in the Dallas jail be replaced by somebody who's cutting hair out of bounds? No cop wants to do that. Cops want to solve problems. I caught the bad guy. I put him in your jail. Can you just work on that, please? So let your county sheriff know in all the counties. Call your county sheriff and say, focus on the folks. They're elected. Tell your county judge. Most of the people that are watching this never vote in these sleepy civic elections, city council. And the price you get is you get Mayor Scott Kane in Cleburne putting people potentially in jail because they deign to travel in pairs. That's what you get for not working. I can promise you without looking that fewer than 10 or 12% voted for him. 10 or 12% of the entire people that could vote. County judge, who cares about county judge? Well, he's the one that's doing all this damage. You need to let all of your county judges find out who they are, send them a love note that says, dude, I've never voted in one of your elections, but from now on, for the rest of my life, I'm going to vote in these elections. And if you never think that there's a difference between different parties and different judges, guess what? There is. And even if you think that shouldn't be right, you can let those judges know. You're not getting my vote, and whenever I get an opportunity to, if there's ever somebody else to vote for, I'm going to vote for that other person. Don't put up with this. You don't have to put up with this. All it takes is voting right, sending a little money to the people that are fighting those people in those elections, and you have to actually vote. Then it's meaningful. You can replace these people. Now, in the short term, you can still let them know that you are opposed to what they're doing, and you've read the order, and you know it. You know that it doesn't say what those pinheads say it says. So, with that, I'm going to ask more time for questions.
I haven't seen any questions.
No questions. Have a good Friday. Hey, they just opened up. Go visit your favorite restaurant within the boundaries. Be safe. If you feel like wearing a mask, wear a mask. If you don't feel like wearing a mask, be aware you're taking a risk. Also be aware that if you wear a mask, you're also taking a risk. But earn a living and support those who are trying to do nothing more than to earn a living from somebody who's taken the time to come to their facility. And if you are uncomfortable with that, then don't do it. And if you're uncomfortable by going to work during this time, then tell your boss. And if the boss says, no, you've got to come to work, then he knows he's going to have a problem. And I haven't seen that. So quit worrying about imaginary garbage and worry about the real thing, which is the poverty being caused right now by your local government. Thank you. And with that, I'm out. Y'all be safe.